For 3,000 years, the galaxy had known only peace. It was not the fragile peace of a ceasefire, nor the cold silence of fear, but a true peace. The Galactic Council had outlawed war, dismantled weapons, and erased the very memory of battles from the minds of its citizens. Generations were born and died without hearing a single shot fired in anger. Planets glittered with art and music instead of fortresses. Armies became history lessons. Children grew up learning about diplomacy, trade, and cooperation, not about soldiers or warriors. The very idea of war became something unreal, like a dark story told to scare the young. For most, this peace was a blessing. Civilizations flourished. Starships traveled freely between worlds. Science and culture thrived without fear of invasion. But for some races, especially the older ones who remembered the time before the Council, the peace felt like a chain. They had once been strong, but now they had grown soft. They no longer knew how to fight, how to protect themselves, or how to survive against true danger. And danger was coming. It began on the far edge of the galaxy. A single mining colony went silent. At first, the Council thought it was a communications error, but then a trade route vanished, its ships destroyed. Soon whole systems were lost, their cities burned to ash. Survivors spoke of monsters from beyond. The mapped stars, towering reptilian beings with burning red eyes and voices like thunder. They called themselves the Drakthul. The Drakthul were unlike any race the Council had known for millennia. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They did not threaten. They simply arrived, struck without warning, and left destruction behind. Their ships were heavy, built for war, bristling with weapons that no one in the Council remembered how to counter. Their soldiers were bred for battle, towering warriors who tore through civilians and defenders alike. In only a few months, 10 colonies had fallen. Refugees fled to the core worlds, bringing stories of fire and blood. The Council chambers, a grand hall of polished crystal and shining light, was filled with panic. Representatives of 100 races argued over what to do. The blue-skinned Arathi demanded new defenses. The insectoid Krylak buzzed in fear, begging for peace talks. The wise but frail Lumerians said nothing, their pale eyes filled with dread. "We must form a fleet," shouted Councillor Vera of the Trillions, slamming a clawed hand on the table. "The Drakthul will not stop unless we resist." "With what?" hissed the Krylak delegate, their antennae twitching nervously. "Our ships are transports, not war machines. We do not have soldiers. Who among us even remembers how to fight?" The chamber fell silent at those words. It was true. For 3,000 years, weapons had been forbidden. Fleets were used for trade, exploration, and rescue missions, not battle. No one alive had ever fought in a war. The Council had believed peace was eternal. Now they were helpless as fear spread. Voices rose in anger. Some wanted to surrender to the Drakthul, hoping mercy could be bought. Others wanted to flee deeper into the galaxy, abandoning the outer colonies. But a few, just a few, dared to whisper an ancient name: humanity. The word carried a weight even after so many centuries. Many in the chamber shifted uncomfortably at the sound of it. The humans had once been members of the Council, long ago. But they were different from other species. Where others celebrated peace, humans had always been restless, violent, dangerous. They had fought wars even among themselves when no enemies threatened them. They had trained their children to fight, built weapons even when no one else would, and studied war as if it were an art. When the Great Peace was declared, the humans had refused to disarm. They claimed peace would not last forever, that danger would return one day. The Council had been horrified. Humanity was seen as unstable, a threat to stability. In time, they were pushed out, exiled to the edge of the galaxy. Most believed they had died out. Others whispered that they still lived in secret, sharpening their swords in the dark. Now, with the Drakthul burning across the stars, the name of humanity rose again. "We cannot trust them," said one delegate sharply. "They are monsters of war. To invite them back would be to invite chaos itself." "Chaos is already here," shouted Councillor Vera. "Our colonies burn, our people die. If the humans yet live, they may be the only ones who can fight the Drakthul." The chamber broke into chaos. Voices screamed over one another. Some demanded humanity's return. Others swore they would never allow it. Meanwhile, the Drakthul grew bolder. Reports came in daily, more colonies destroyed, more fleets shattered. Their warlords sent mocking messages to the council, declaring that peace had made the galaxy weak and ripe for conquest. Panic spread across the core worlds. Civilians who had never known fear now trembled in their homes. Cities that had never been defended now rushed to build walls and shields. But everyone knew it would not be enough. The Drakthul had come to claim the galaxy, and there was no one left who could stop them. No one, except perhaps the humans. The council gathered in secret chambers away from the public eye. They argued deep into the night. In the end, fear outweighed caution. A decision was made. A small delegation would be sent to the far edge of the galaxy, to the last known human territories. If humanity lived, they would be asked, begged, to fight once more. But there was no comfort in this choice. The counselors remembered the old records. They remembered human battles, human strategies, human wars. Humanity was not merciful. Humanity was not gentle. If they returned, they would not simply defend the galaxy. They would change it forever. Still, the council had no choice. The galaxy's peace was broken. The age of safety was over. War had returned. The edge of the galaxy was not kind to those who chose solitude. Stars burned faintly in the distance, far from the bustling core worlds. Planets here were rugged, wild, and mostly forgotten. And among these forgotten worlds, humanity thrived, not as diplomats, not as council members, but as hunters, warriors, and builders of ships designed for one thing: war. No one in the Galactic Council had seen a human in more than 3,000 years. Their records were faded, stories told in whispers, often dismissed as legend. Yet humanity had survived, not by hiding but by preparing. Every city, every academy, every shipyard on their planets was alive with discipline. Every child was trained not only to read and write, but to fight, to think, and to survive. War was not just a skill, it was a way of life. On the planet Varkus, a rocky world at the very edge of mapped space, humans moved like shadows across the docks. Massive ships were being fueled, armed, and prepared. Machines roared in harmony. Men and women worked in precise silence. This was no festival of technology. It was a ballet of war. Each movement deliberate, each system tested, each weapon calibrated. Admiral Kalen, the commander of the Varkus fleet, stood atop a platform overlooking the docks. His hair was streaked with gray, but his posture was straight, sharp, commanding. His eyes, dark and steady, scanned the fleets. Hundreds of ships, hundreds of crews, and yet he felt none of the fatigue the council feared. In his mind, this was only the beginning. "Report," he said, his voice cutting across the quiet hum of engines. Lieutenant Mara, young but seasoned, stepped forward. "Fleet ready, Admiral. All weapon systems operational. All crews trained for combat. We are prepared for deployment on your command." Kalen nodded. "Good. But preparation is only the first step. Remember, we fight not because we are forced to, but because we choose to. And we choose victory." Mara's eyes gleamed with understanding. Every human there had been taught the same lesson since childhood. War was not evil. It was a test, a challenge, and humans thrived on challenges. Far beyond Varkus, a small delegation of council envoys approached. They had taken an old, poorly shielded ship to reach the humans. It creaked and groaned as it entered the outer orbit of the planet. Inside, the envoys whispered nervously. "I've read the reports," said Counselor Vera, the Trillion envoy. "But what if they do not answer? What if they attack us instead?" "Impossible," said Lyran, a Lumerian delegate. "Humans are cunning, yes, but they are not fools. They know we are desperate. They will not waste their fleet on us, unless we insult them." Vera's claws twitched nervously. "We have no choice. If the humans refuse, our worlds will burn. We must ask them, beg them, to help." Lyran did not respond. The Lumerian's pale eyes were fixed on the stars, watching the distant fleet of humans like one might watch a predator in the dark. The delegation's ship touched down on the outskirts of Varkus's central docking area. The humans watched silently from the shadows, assessing the newcomers. When the envoys emerged, they were met by the calm stare of Kalen himself. No soldiers, no fanfare, just the Admiral standing tall. "You are the council delegation," Kalen said, his voice neutral. "Why are you here?" Vera stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Admiral Kalen, the galaxy is under attack." "The Drakthul—" Kalen raised a hand. "I know who they are. I have read the reports. Do you come to threaten us? To ask for supplies? Or to beg?" Lyran whispered, barely audible. We Beg? Kalen's dark eyes swept over them. Then speak quickly. I have little patience for words. The Drakthul have attacked, you say? Yes, Vera said, her voice trembling. They have destroyed colonies, burned worlds, killed millions. We have no fleet capable of stopping them. The Council begs for your aid. Kalen's lips curved into a faint smile. So war has returned. He paused, letting the words sink in. Finally, it was getting dull. The envoys froze, dull. They had come expecting pleas, not mockery. Kalen gestured to the fleet behind him. We are ready. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. The galaxy may have forgotten how to fight, but humans never forget. We do not ask why. We do not negotiate terms. We fight, that is our nature. That is who we are, Vera's voice shook. Pubis Admiral, we fear your methods. The humans. You were once dangerous, even to the Council. Kalen's smile widened slightly. Dangerous, perhaps. But remember this. We do not fight to destroy what we love. We fight to protect it. And if war is necessary, then we will do what the Council no longer can. We will win. The delegation exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected humans to be helpful, maybe powerful, but not eager. Not excited. Kalen turned, signaling the humans around him. Crews moved with precision, launching shuttles, boarding ships, and preparing for jump into Drakthul territory. Every movement was silent, deadly, disciplined. The delegation could not hide their astonishment. A young human pilot approached Kalen. Sir, ship's ready for jump. Orders? Kalen nodded. Set course for the outer rim. We will meet the Drakthul where they least expect us. Begin the hunt, the envoys whispered among themselves. Hunt? Lyran breathed. They call it a hunt. Kalen's voice carried over the hangar. Yes, war is a hunt, and we are the hunters. If your worlds burn, it will not be for lack of effort. We will remind the galaxy what humans can do when they fight. As the humans boarded their ships, the envoys noticed a strange calm in them. Not fear, not hesitation, not sorrow. Excitement. The humans smiled, not cruelly, but as if they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives. And in truth, they had. For 3,000 years, humanity had lived on the edge of the galaxy, far from the prying eyes of the Council. They had built their ships in secret. They had trained their children in combat. They had tested strategies and simulations, refined weapons, and maintained the art of war. While the rest of the galaxy celebrated peace, humans had prepared for the day it would end. Now that day had come. Vera whispered to Lyran, Do you think they will succeed? Lyran's eyes never left the human fleet. If anyone can, it is them. But victory will not be clean. It will not be simple. They are different. The first human ships rose into orbit, engines glowing with blue fire. Shuttles carried soldiers armed with weapons long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. From orbit, the planet looked like a single living war machine, silent and waiting for the first strike. Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars. The Drakthul believe they are invincible. They believe the galaxy is weak. They are wrong. And soon they will learn the cost of underestimating humanity. As the fleet jumped into the darkness, leaving the comfort of Varkus behind, the Council delegation watched in awe and fear. The humans were gone, but the feeling they left lingered, a promise or perhaps a warning. War had returned, and humans were ready. In the void between stars, the first human fleet accelerated toward the outer rim. Every pilot, every crew member, every soldier knew what awaited them. And yet there was no hesitation. There was only anticipation. For humans, war was not a curse. War was a challenge. War was life. The outer rim was a cold, empty stretch of space, dotted with a few scattered stars and planets. But now it was no longer empty. The Drakthul had claimed it as their hunting ground, their territory where resistance had fallen silent for centuries. Ships of the Council had attempted patrols, but they were weak, slow, and untrained for combat. Their fleets had been nothing more than floating targets. And now, for the first time in 3,000 years, humans had arrived. The human fleet cut through the darkness like a living storm. Sleek ships, black and silver, bristling with weapons, moved in perfect formations. Each ship seemed alive, each crew synchronized in ways that no Council officer had ever seen. The humans did not rely on shields or defensive fleets. They relied on speed, intelligence, and the instinctive understanding of war that had been honed for generations. Admiral Kalen watched the sensors on his flagship, the Indomitable. They are near, he said calmly. His voice carried a confidence that unsettled the council envoys still aboard. Prepare for first contact. And remember, they are not like other fleets. They do not fight to survive, they fight to win. Lieutenant Mara stood beside him. Sir, Drakthul scouts detected near Sector 44B. Their numbers are higher than our estimates. Kalen smiled faintly. Numbers mean nothing. Skill, planning, and courage, that is what matters. Ready the fighters. Let's remind them why the galaxy feared humans once. Far ahead, the Drakthul scouts spotted the approaching fleet. Their sensors screamed with alerts they had not experienced in centuries. Hundreds of ships, perfectly organized, moving with deadly precision. Warlord Thraxel, the commander of the Drakthul forces in the Outer Rim, growled in frustration. What is this? These humans, they exist? Yes, my lord, one of his lieutenants hissed. The humans, they are here. And they are not alone. Their fleet, it is unlike anything we have seen in millennia. Thraxel slammed a clawed hand on his console. Then destroy them. Show no mercy. They will learn their place. The two fleets converged near a small barren planet. The Drakthul formed their lines, heavy warships bristling with cannons and missile launchers. The humans did not form a line. They moved in unpredictable patterns, weaving and circling, their ships darting in and out like predators surrounding prey. Lyran, the Lumerian envoy observing from orbit, whispered to Counselor Vera, I have never seen anything like this. They are enjoying it. Vera's eyes widened as the first volleys began. The Drakthul fired first, massive energy beams streaking across space. The council envoys expected the humans to panic, to retreat, to hide behind shields, but they did nothing of the sort. Human ships split, twisted, and dove between volleys, returning fire with surgical precision. Missiles exploded near Drakthul warships, forcing them to scatter. Small human fighter craft darted around larger enemy vessels, striking weak points no one else would see. A massive Drakthul battleship roared toward the Indomitable, its cannons aiming to obliterate the flagship in seconds. Kalen leaned forward, eyes sharp. Evasive maneuvers, he commanded. The Indomitable twisted, banking sharply. The enemy fire overshot. Mara's fingers danced over the controls, launching precision torpedoes. The Drakthul ship shuddered, systems failing. Before it could recover, human fighters swarmed it from all sides, and a final devastating blast tore it apart. The Drakthul warriors hissed and roared in frustration. Their fleets had been nearly unchallenged for centuries. Now these humans moved, struck, and disappeared as if they were ghosts. One of the council envoys whispered almost in awe. They fight like predators. Kalen's voice was calm, but his eyes glinted with a cold fire. We are predators, and the galaxy has forgotten what that means. Across the battlefield, the humans did not pause. They anticipated every move the Drakthul made. Mines were deployed in narrow corridors, traps laid in sectors where the enemy would likely retreat. Every strike was calculated, every maneuver designed to maximize enemy loss while keeping human casualties low. By the time the first battle ended, the humans had destroyed half of the Drakthul fleet present. And still no human ship had been lost. Warlord Thraxel could not believe it. His warriors, trained for millennia in the art of war, were being outmaneuvered and outsmarted by humans. Rage consumed him. Bring everything forward. Crush them. Show no mercy. But it was too late. The humans were already gone, vanishing into the darkness of space, leaving only debris and wreckage in their wake. They did not pursue recklessly. They returned to hidden sectors to regroup, planning their next strike. Lyran turned to Vera. They fight differently. They do not hesitate. They do not fear. They anticipate, they adapt, and they enjoy it. Vera swallowed hard. Enjoy it? How can anyone enjoy war? Lyran shook their head. Humans do not think of it as destruction. They think of it as a challenge, a test, and when they win, they smile. Meanwhile, Kalen convened with his senior officers aboard the Indomitable. This was only the beginning, he said. The Drakthul believe themselves invincible. They do not understand humans, but soon they will learn. Lieutenant Mara nodded. We have their attention now, but they will not retreat easily. Kalen's lips curved into a faint grin. Good, let them come. Let them rage. Let them believe they are dangerous. That will make their defeat even sweeter. Back on the Drakthul side, Thraxel seethed. His warriors, who had never tasted failure, were humiliated. Reports flooded in of lost ships, broken formations, and retreating forces. He could not comprehend it. No plan he had laid, no maneuver he had ordered had succeeded against humans. They are different, one of his lieutenants admitted. Faster and smarter. Stronger, Thraxel roared, a sound that echoed across the hull of his flagship. Then we will adapt. We will destroy them. They will not escape the wrath of the Drakthul. But even as he spoke, there was an unease among his warriors. They had seen the human ships vanish into the void, only to strike again with perfect precision. They had seen humans laugh as they fought, their faces calm, their movements confident. For the first time in centuries, the Drakthul felt fear. The council envoys, watching the battle unfold on their screens, were equally shaken. They had begged for humans to intervene, but what they saw now was not rescue. It was a storm. The humans were not merely fighting. They were reshaping the battlefield, forcing the Drakthul to fight a war they could not win. Vera turned to Lyran, her voice trembling. Have we made a mistake? Are we sure the humans are on our side? Lyran's pale eyes met hers, calm but wary. They are on no one's side but their own. But as long as the Drakthul live, their interest aligns with ours. For now. Kalen, aboard the Indomitable, prepared his fleet for the next jump. The first strike had been a lesson. The Drakthul had learned quickly that humans were dangerous, but it was humans who had taught the first lesson. Prepare for the next sector, Kalen commanded. We will find them, and we will remind them why they fear the galaxy's forgotten wolves. The human fleet moved silently into the void, leaving behind destruction, confusion, and fear. In every corner of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The humans have returned. They fight as no one else can. And when war comes, humanity smiles. Even the council envoys who had traveled to beg for help could not hide their awe. The humans were not just saviors, they were something more. They were predators. They were hunters. And they were awake at last. In the distance, the Drakthul warlords prepared their next assault, unaware that the humans had already set the traps, anticipated the moves, and were ready to strike again. The galaxy had forgotten the taste of true war. The humans had not, and the first blood had only just been spilled. The galaxy was no longer calm. The Drakthul, who had once swept through the outer rim with ease, now hesitated. Their warlords had tasted defeat at the hands of humans, and even their bravest warriors trembled at the memory of the first encounter. But fear only made them angrier. They gathered massive fleets determined to crush the humans before they could strike again. The council watched in terror. Systems that had been quiet for centuries were now under threat. Their fleets were weak, untrained, and scattered. They had begged humanity to intervene, and now the humans were not just intervening. They were rewriting the rules of war. On the planet Varkis, Admiral Kalen convened his officers aboard the Indomitable. The fleet was in orbit, poised to strike again. Reports from the last sector? Kalen asked, his voice calm, almost casual. Lieutenant Mara handed him a datapad. The Drakthul lost half their fleet. Survivors are retreating to regroup. Many of their warlords were killed or injured. Morale is extremely low. They are angry, sir. And confused. Kalen nodded. Good. Confusion is a weapon. Morale is fragile. Fear can be exploited. He paused, his gaze scanning the fleet. We strike again, but this time we do not merely destroy. We teach them a lesson they will never forget. Prepare tactical teams. We will train allied fleets along the way. The council envoys aboard the Indomitable exchanged uneasy glances. Allied fleets? Vera whispered. They train others while fighting? How is that even possible? Kalen's grin was faint, dangerous. War is more than fighting. It is strategy, discipline, and adaptation. If the galaxy is to survive, those who can fight must learn to fight as humans do. Otherwise, they are nothing but cannon fodder. Across the void, the Drakthul were gathering. Warships that dwarfed human vessels filled the sectors. They launched scouts to detect the humans' movement. But the humans were already gone, jumping silently from sector to sector, setting ambushes, cutting supply lines, and striking only where the enemy was weakest. The humans did not just fight, they taught. Small fleets of council ships, previously ineffective and scattered, were escorted into battle alongside humans. At first, the council ships were hesitant, firing too slowly, maneuvering clumsily. Humans moved among them, giving signals, directing fire, teaching tactics. In one sector, a squadron of human fighters under Commander Rao launched a feint attack, drawing out a large Drak-Thul warship. When it pursued, the council ships, now guided by human instruction, flanked it from both sides. Precision torpedoes struck weak points, crippling the enemy vessel. The Drak-Thul warlords could not believe it. How can they coordinate so perfectly? How do they anticipate every move? Thraxel roared from his flagship. Destroy them. Destroy everything! But it was too late. The humans had already vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind chaos and wreckage. Vera watched the reports from the latest battle. They are reshaping the battlefield, she whispered. No one else could do this. The Drak-Thul are terrified and the council fleets are finally effective. All because of them. Lyran's pale eyes were fixed on the screen. They are not only fighters. They are teachers, leaders, predators, and strategists. This is what the galaxy has forgotten for 3,000 years. And now it is awake. Back aboard the Indomitable, Kalen addressed his fleet. The Drak-Thul will not stop. They will retaliate, sending everything they have to destroy us. That is why we strike first. Every battle, every sector, every operation must weaken them, exhaust them, and remind them that the galaxy is not theirs to claim. Mara stepped forward. Sir, we also need to consider civilian populations. We cannot let the Drak-Thul strike unopposed while we focus only on the military. Kalen nodded. Agreed. Humans fight not just for victory but for protection. Every civilian world under threat will have our fleet nearby. They will know safety comes with humans in the galaxy, and the Drak-Thul will learn that humanity protects what it loves fiercely. The next series of battles was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. Entire sectors became chessboards of war. Human fleets moved with fluid precision, often disappearing into hyperspace only to strike from unexpected angles. They sabotaged enemy supply lines, ambushed reinforcements, and freed colonies previously under Drak-Thul occupation. For the first time, humans were not just fighting, they were teaching the galaxy to fight alongside them. Council fleets, insectoid mercenaries, and even a few rebellious Drak-Thul captives learned strategies, formations, and tactics from humans. One operation became legendary within weeks. On the planet Kalathar, a Drak-Thul force had taken a heavily populated city. The humans arrived with a council fleet. Instead of direct assault, they implemented a trap. Small, nimble ships drew the enemy to open plains while human artillery and guided missiles struck from orbit. Ground teams landed simultaneously, striking key positions with speed and precision. By the end of the day, the city was free, and not a single civilian was lost. Human forces retreated into the shadows, leaving behind confused and demoralized enemies. In the aftermath, the Drak-Thul began questioning themselves. Why do these humans fight differently? One warrior hissed to another. They do not fear death. They protect, yet they destroy with purpose. They anticipate our every move, Warlord Thraxel seethed. It is impossible. No species can fight like this. They are not like us. They enjoy war, but they also care. They are terrifying. Back on Varkas, Kalen observed the reports. Good, he said quietly. Fear is useful. Confusion is powerful. Let them rage. Let them believe they can fight. Then we will remind them why humans should never be underestimated. The council envoys, watching from orbit, could hardly contain their amazement. They are not just winning, Vera murmured. They are transforming this war. They are reshaping the galaxy. Lyran's eyes were distant. They are more than warriors. They are teachers, leaders, predators, and symbols. The Drak-Thul will never forget them, and the rest of the galaxy will follow them willingly or be left behind. Every battle, every operation, every victory spread humanity's reputation. Planets that had cowered under Drak-Thul rule now rose in resistance, inspired by humans. Fleets that had fled or surrendered before now stood firm, fighting alongside the humans. The galaxy was waking from its long peace, and humans were the spark. Yet for all their victories, Kalen knew the Drak-Thul would not give up easily. They were cunning, brutal, and relentless. The next phase of the war would demand even more strategy, more sacrifice, and even greater cunning. And humanity was ready. Kalen stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching the stars. War is not a curse, he said softly, almost to himself. It is a challenge, a test. And when faced with challenge, humans thrive. We do not merely survive, we dominate. And we will remind this galaxy why humanity smiles when the fight begins. Below him, crews moved like a single organism. Ships were repaired, weapons recalibrated, pilots prepared. Every human knew their role, every soldier knew their duty. The fire of war had returned to the galaxy, and it burned brighter with every human ship that jumped into the void. The Drak Thul, meanwhile, were gathering all their forces. Their next assault would be massive, desperate, and terrifying. But humans were ready. They had planned for this. They had trained for this. They had waited for this. And when the next battle came, the Drak Thul would learn again that humans did not fight like anyone else. They did not flee. They did not hesitate. They laughed, they smiled, and they won. The fire had spread. Humanity had reminded the galaxy that war was not weakness. War was not chaos. War was life. And in that fire, humans thrived. The outer rim was no longer silent. The galaxy was alive with conflict, but also with hope. Because wherever humans appeared, the Drak Thul would fall. And every victory, every liberated world, every lesson taught to allies, spread the legend of the humans. The forgotten warriors who had returned to remind the galaxy of their power. The war was far from over. But humanity had shown its teeth. The Drak Thul would think twice before striking again. And the Council, watching from the core worlds, realized that peace might be restored, only because humans were now watching over it. The galaxy held its breath. For months, human-led fleets had chased the Drak Thul across countless sectors. Every battle had been a lesson, every strike a warning. The Drak Thul had learned fear, hesitation, and confusion, emotions long foreign to their kind. Yet they refused to surrender. They were warriors to the core, and they would fight to the last. The final confrontation would not be quiet. It would not be slow. It would be a storm, the largest battle the galaxy had seen in millennia, and humanity would lead it. Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the flagship of the largest fleet humans had ever assembled. Beside him were dozens of allied commanders, Trillians, Lumerians, Arathi, even a few former Drak Thul mercenaries who had switched sides. Ships numbered in the thousands, stretching across space like a living constellation. Every vessel had been repaired, every weapon tuned, every soldier ready. Kalen's voice was calm but filled with iron. This is it. Every battle we fought was preparation for today. The Drak Thul believe they are invincible, but they have not faced humanity at full strength. Remember your training. Trust your instincts. Protect the innocent. And fight. Fight like humans fight, and victory will be ours. Lieutenant Mara stepped forward, her eyes sharp and focused. Admiral, sensors show the Drak Thul fleet concentrated near the planet Zerath Prime. They have positioned warlords, heavy cannons, and orbital defenses. They expect us. Kalen smiled faintly. Good, let them expect. Expectations are easy to exploit. As the human-led fleet approached Zerath Prime, the Drak Thul unleashed everything they had. Massive energy beams tore across space, exploding ships and leaving trails of fire. Warships the size of moons fired relentlessly, aiming to crush the approaching humans before they could reach orbit. The Council envoys, observing from a distant station, whispered among themselves. They are walking into certain death, one said. Lyran shook their head. No, they are walking into the storm they planned for. Watch closely. Human ships twisted, turned, and accelerated in ways the Drak Thul could not anticipate. Fighters darted through gaps in the enemy lines, torpedoes and plasma missiles striking precisely where the Drak Thul were weakest. Large ships moved as one, shields overlapping, weapons synchronized. Every strike, every maneuver was calculated to maximize damage while minimizing risk. From orbit, ground forces watched the sky in awe. On Zerath Prime, civilians huddled in bunkers, while humans coordinated evacuation, defense, and counterattack simultaneously. Ships dropped troop transports, delivering specialized squads to neutralize key artillery positions. The Drak Thul thought they could dominate the planet from orbit, but humans were already on the ground, dismantling defenses and redirecting fire. Admiral Kalen observed the battle unfold. Phase 1 is complete, he said calmly. Now begins Phase 2. Focus on their command structures. Remove their leadership and the rest will fall apart. Mara's fingers flew across the console. Enemy warlords detected in the northern quadrant. All assault squads ready. With precision, humans and allied forces struck. Bombers descended on command ships while stealth teams infiltrated the orbital stations. Explosions tore through the Drak-Thul network, communications cut, and warlord coordination collapsed. The Drak-Thul warriors roared in frustration. How can this be? Every move we make, they anticipate, one young Drak-Thul lieutenant screamed to Thraxel. They are not like anyone we have ever faced. They are perfect predators. Thraxel slammed his claw on the console. Impossible. They cannot be humans alone. There must be more. Some weapon, some strategy we cannot see. But it was no weapon. It was humans, the culmination of thousands of years of training, preparation, and instinct. Every maneuver had been planned. Every trap laid, every strike executed with skill no other species possessed. Across space, human fighters weaved between enemy lines, delivering precise strikes. Allied fleets guided by human commanders moved with unprecedented coordination. Where panic might have set in, humans instilled confidence. Where hesitation might have slowed action, humans led decisively. By the middle of the battle, the Drak-Thul had lost nearly 3/4 of their fleet. Ships that had once seemed invincible now floated in pieces, debris scattered across space. Their warlords, enraged and desperate, attempted one last coordinated attack, a hammer blow aimed at the human flagship. Kalen did not flinch. Deploy the decoy formations. Lead them into the trap, he ordered. Fighters and cruisers created illusions, drawing the Drak-Thul fleet into a narrow asteroid field. Hidden human artillery and missile platforms waited, calibrated to strike with deadly accuracy. As the Drak-Thul entered, explosions tore through their ranks. Ships collided with asteroids, weapons misfired, and panic rippled through the enemy lines. Now, Kalen shouted. The human fleet surged forward, cutting through the remaining enemy with unmatched precision. Drak-Thul ships attempted retreat, but escape corridors were blocked. Every move, every option had been anticipated. In hours, the Drak-Thul fleet was shattered. Warlords who had once led legions now lay dead or captured. Survivors surrendered or fled, humiliated and terrified of the humans who had defeated them. On Zarath Prime, civilians emerged from shelters. Children stared at the skies as human ships hovered in protective formation. Soldiers and citizens alike knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. Humans had not just fought, they had saved worlds. The council envoys watched in stunned silence. Vera whispered, They are not just warriors. They are legends, Lyran nodded. More than that, they are the embodiment of the galaxy's lost strength. We relied on peace for too long and it made us weak. Humans, remind us why strength matters. Kalen stood on the bridge looking out over the battlefield. Ships still drifted in orbit, some damaged, most intact. Allied fleets approached cautiously, now confident and capable under human guidance. He allowed himself a faint smile. Victory, he said quietly, almost to himself. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for the galaxy. And for the lesson that humans do not cower, we do not yield. And when war comes, we smile. Mara, standing beside him, grinned. Sir, the Drak-Thul. They will never forget this day. Kalen's eyes were dark, steady. No, they will not. And the rest of the galaxy has learned something else today, too. Remember this. Humans fight not just with skill, but with purpose. We do not destroy indiscriminately. We protect what matters, and we do not stop. Not until the threat is gone and our people are safe. Reports poured in from sectors the humans had liberated. Colonies once enslaved or threatened cheered as human-led fleets arrived. Council fleets, now trained in human tactics, enforced order and defense. A galaxy that had feared the Drak-Thul for centuries now felt hope for the first time in generations. Even the surviving Drak-Thul were changed. Thraxel, battered and defeated, retreated with a handful of loyal warriors. These humans, they are not to be underestimated, he muttered, eyes burning with anger. We will recover. We will return. But next time it will be different. Kalen did not pursue them immediately. There was no need. The Drak-Thul had learned their lesson. Humanity's presence in the galaxy was now undeniable. They had reminded everyone, from council races to outer colonies, that humans were not to be ignored, dismissed, or underestimated. In the quiet that followed the final battle, Kalen allowed himself to reflect. The galaxy had been peaceful for 3,000 years, yes, but it had grown weak, complacent, and dependent. The Drak-Thul had exploited that weakness. But humans were never weak. Humans remembered, humans prepared, and humans thrived when tested. And now the galaxy remembered too. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Kalen looked at his crew. Young pilots, grizzled veterans, allied commanders, they all had one thing in common. They had fought, survived, and prevailed. Humans grinned not out of bloodlust, but because the challenge had come, and they had risen to meet it. "Prepare the fleet for patrols," Kalen said. "We will secure the sectors, train the allies, and ensure peace returns. But make no mistake, if war comes again, humanity will not hesitate. And we will not fail." Mara smiled. "Then the galaxy is safe. For now." Kalen's smile was faint but certain. "For now. But the galaxy will never forget. And neither will the Drakthul. Peace may return, but the reminder remains. Humans are the hunters of the stars. And we always smile when the hunt begins." As the human fleet moved across the stars, liberated worlds cheered, allied fleets followed, and the council breathed a cautious sigh of relief. War had returned, yes, but humanity had returned stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable than anyone could have imagined.